Welcome back to the Work of Wellbeing podcast. I'm Amy Green, your host from The Wellness Strategy, and we're here to talk about all things personal and professional wellbeing. This podcast is designed to help you become curious and consider your everyday wellbeing strategies, what you do for your own wellness, and how you can start to transform your life both in and out of the workplace. Sit back, grab a cup of tea, maybe grab a notepad, a journal, and get ready to feel really enlightened about what wellbeing used to be, what it is now, and where you can take your own wellness strategy. Right now, there's an identity shift happening in education, and I want to talk about it. Also, this is my last episode for 2025. And it's been an honour and a delight to bring you a podcast every fortnight this year to talk about all of the things connected to staff wellbeing in schools. I'm not sure what the podcast is going to look like next year, but I do know it'll be happening in one way or another. The format, the structure, the title, I don't know yet. But it has been an absolute delight to have so many of you follow and listen and share. I know that so many of you come up to me when I'm at events where I'm speaking and you say, oh, I listen to your podcast. And it's great. You know, I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I've done so many episodes, and speaking for me is one of the things that I love. But I also know that when I share ideas, people really, really do connect with them. And I want to make sure that I know you know that because it's great. Right? It's a great way for us to connect, even though we're not connecting in real life. There are certain things that I know many of you absolutely take on or reflect on or share with others, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So as this is our last episode for 2025, I want to talk about the identity shift happening in our space, what it might mean for us, the things that people are pondering and questioning, and I guess a little bit of where we're heading with the wellness strategy as well around what does it look like, right? What does it mean? So what do I mean when I say identity shift? I will be honest, I put this on my LinkedIn a couple of months ago and there were very mixed understandings of it. What I'm talking about here is the identity of being an educator and a teacher is changing and evolving. It's definitely not the same as it was when I started teaching, which was in 2007. It's certainly not the same if you've been teaching longer than that. And I'm not just talking about student needs. I'm not talking about perhaps the change around directed or explicit instruction. What I'm really talking about is the introduction of AI to the world, which is mind-boggling. You know, as someone who writes a lot and has written books, it's kind of scary for me in a way to think that pre-AI, you really had to know your content and you had to know how to speak and you had to know what to say and you had to know how to write to be able to share this work. And now anyone can do it. Yeah, and we're seeing more and more people pop up and just act like, you know, they're doing it from their own free thought, but it's very easy to recognize that that's perhaps not accurate and not true. And as someone who is a writer and who's been doing this for a number of years now, even my identity around it is shifting. And so I think for educators, it's the same. You know, we're starting to observe what's happening in different workplaces and how things are shifting, and we're not quite sure what that means for us. We're not quite sure where it's going to take our profession. Or the other thing that I actually want to talk more about that we're not talking about is if AI is going to increase work efficiencies and reduce workload, what are we going to do with the time we have? What are we going to do with the time? Yeah. You know, I read something recently that they think that within 15 years we'll be working 2 days a week. What are we going to do with 5 days off? I mean, rest for a couple of months, but then after that, believe me, it'll wear off and it'll be like, what now? And if you're addicted to busy, if you're addicted to working, you might at the moment be saving 2 or 3 hours a week, but what are you doing with that time? Are you actually using it to support your well-being, or are you just filling it with more busy work? And this is part of the identity shift, right? But as we emerge into this new world where AI is becoming part of our daily work, we have to pause and ask, what does it mean for our job? What does it mean for our spare time? What does it mean for the children we're teaching? But I really think if we just consider well-being and workload and workflow, AI is almost like this team member we've been asking for, and it's shown up and it can help make things more efficient, and we've got an opportunity to harness that. But that means we are going to take a little bit of a shift in our role, and then the purpose we might find in our work, in the things that we love doing, because AI can do it faster. And so there is an identity shift there. And while many of our conversations at the moment are around what does AI mean for students, I think we're at the risk of really missing out on a crucial conversation, which is, what about us as educators? What about us, people who work in schools? I mean, this could really provide us with the time we've been asking for, And I hear the hidden questions around it. You know, I hear people saying, but what does it mean for me as a teacher? Will I be replaced? Am I going to have a job? How do I use AI for my students if I don't even know how to use it for myself? What's the point of teaching? We can just Google everything, ask ChatGPT. And how do we teach if learning is no longer just about memorizing facts? Yeah. And when I put this on LinkedIn, someone said to me, learning for a really long time hasn't been about memorizing facts. I'm like, okay, I get that, I do. But have a look at our assessment tasks. Most assessment tasks are really like, can you memorize this information and do it in a certain time frame with a certain word count? I mean, we don't need to do that anymore. Yeah, we need to think a lot differently about what learning looks like. Anyway, that's a different conversation. This conversation, though, is a little bit more urgent because I want you to be focusing on the AI tools that are going to allow us to have the freedom we've been asking for to support workload and well-being, not just for our students, right? Because if we fail to capture this, if we fail to really tune in for ourselves, we are going to find ourselves even further behind than we normally are. And we're going to be complaining about workload, and we're not actually going to be harnessing the things that we can. Yeah. Now, I do sit firmly in the space of someone who's an educator, but also an advocate for staff wellbeing. I'm really big on efficiency, effectiveness, good processes, systems, reducing workload, but also asking the question, why are we doing it? Why does it matter? And I think at the moment with AI, we're really, really fixated on what does it mean for students? What does it look like in classrooms? What does it look like for learning experiences? How are we ensuring students know how to use AI? And so I'm watching this shift, I'm watching it, and I'm watching other workplaces, and I'm watching other workplaces take it on, not for their customers, but for themselves. They're going, how can we actually speed things up in our workplace? How do we become more efficient? How do we create more consistencies? How do we create automation and workflow so that we don't have to do everything ourselves? Now, people are starting to figure this out on their own. I have done a keynote recently around this and spoken to some people, but what really stands out in education is that it's figure it out is on your own. There isn't a shared expectation or permission or understanding around what it looks like for educators around planning. There isn't anything that is uniform or explicit around this. And so I don't really think we're being intentional enough. I don't think we're being intentional enough around the use of AI for educators themselves. For students, yeah, but not for us. And so when it comes to the shift we're facing around workload, it's not just about classrooms, yeah? It's bigger and it's deeper. It's around how do we actually do things in schools that are on our to-do list, and how could we do them differently, yeah? How could we do them differently? And so this is what I mean by a little bit of an identity shift, because it's shifting the way we work. It's shifting maybe where we got our self-worth or fulfillment or meaning from. And I think this is where, like I mentioned in the last episode around direct instruction, we need to support people through this transition. Yeah. So if you're focusing on AI tools, but not acknowledging the shift this is going to play in someone's work role, then I think we're probably missing the point. Yeah. And we need to go deeper. We need to think differently. We need to think bigger, and we need to think now about what does this really mean for us? What does this really mean in the work that we do on our to-do list, for the tasks that we're trying to get done? And I've been thinking a lot about this, yeah? And so one of the things that I have done is create an AI framework, which I'm not going to talk through now, but it's in our keynote. AI is not replacing us, but it can accelerate the work that we want to do, yeah? So it's not replacing our knowledge or our expertise or our professional integrity or the professional dialogue we need to have with one another, real humans, real life. But it can accelerate some of the things that take a long time. Analyzing data, skeleton planning for us, designing assessment tasks, creating rubrics. It can accelerate that, but then we need to have the professional lens on top of it to actually make sure that we know what we're doing. Now, this is huge, right? This is massive. I think this is really, really core for how we're going to see workload reduce and wellbeing increase. But I am going to leave you with this one thing. If you're going to use AI to help you plan assessment tasks, whatever it might be, you should be saving time. And then the question is, what are you doing with that time? Because if you're filling it with more work, I think we're kind of missing the point here. Yeah. AI doesn't help accelerate things so that we can become more busy. It should actually be creating more freedom for us so we can go and live our life. Yeah. And that's what we're going to be doing in 2026. We're going to help you use AI to create more freedom so you can go and live your life out of the classroom, because we know that's what educators are craving. As always, if you've liked this, please share it, tag it, do whatever you're supposed to do with podcasts. I don't know. And also, as always, have a wonderful day, evening, and night. And break, right? End of the year. Have a great break. I'll see you in 2026. And if you need anything, you know how to find me. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really do hope you have enjoyed it. The information discussed today was just that, information only. It's not specific advice. If you take action following something you heard today, it's important to make sure that you get professional advice about your unique situation before you proceed, whether that advice be legal, financial, accounting, medical, or otherwise. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or if there's anything else I can do to support your own wellbeing and wellness journey, whether it's another topic you'd like me to discuss or whether it's support in your school, workplace, or individually. And if you do know someone who might benefit from listening to this, please remember to tell them about it, share the episode with them, or suggest my Instagram, my website, or LinkedIn where they can find out more about me and what I do. And as always, I will see you in the next episode.